Originally, I'm from Quebec. Some of you may know, with my last name being Routhier. That's how you pronounce it. My father's Caribbean. My mom is Quebecois. So I grew up French, and I learned English when I was pretty young. I moved to Toronto 2 years ago to study music specifically because I felt like that was a good place to have those opportunities, right? Make those connections. And so, yeah, I joined the program, Music Industry, Arts and Performance, which was at the Performing Arts Center. My main instrument, by the way, was like saxophone / hip hop / rap, vocals, and guitar. So that's kind of like where I dabble in. So yeah, essentially I joined that program, and I saw on Instagram ad in my second semester for a Performing Arts Center representative, which was, I believe, a new position at the time. So I was able and grateful and lucky enough to get that position, apply, and pass the interviews and be appointed. So very happy for that to happen. Very grateful. When I got that position, honestly, I joined board meetings and I joined a lot of governance stuff that was happening at CCCI, and I was like, what is going on? Like all these acronyms, CASA, bylaws, always like, what is this? Like I was so confused because I joined in pretty late. I joined in the winter semester. With that in mind, I learned so much since I started. I had the other year as PAC rep. I think the biggest achievement that we did was the strategic plan, which we got like thousands of students to ask us what they really wanted for CCCI to do, what was the objectives. The board last year, we were able to sit together, kind of compile all that data, and kind of bring forward a proposal for you folks to approve at the SGM or AGM. I think that was like one of the biggest achievements that we did. So it's ensuring that like we have a vision for the next 5 years. Every single year, it's a new board, it's a new direction, it's new people, maybe a new president. So it's difficult to get those long-term objectives or those long-term goals. Essentially, what we're trying to do with the strategic plan is to say like, okay, let's lay the foundation so that every year we can work on that plan and ensure that that's what students actually want and actually need. So that was part of the work we did last year. We did a lot of policy work, so we did 20 or so governmental governance policies. We worked together as a team, like long meetings until 10 p.m. I personally did some work with the Canadian Alliance Student Association, so otherwise known as CASA. So I was part of the National Advocacy Committee, where we advocated for students on the federal levels. So yeah, then I applied to be the Arts Center Vice President, which I got elected, which I'm very grateful for. And then the position opened up for permanent president. I wanted to do what's best for students, and I wanted to take a crack at it. It was a very difficult decision because understanding the role, I did have to take a gap year. So I temporarily pausing my studies in music, just having comm course so I can really focus on students and try to do the best work that they can. And I've also learned from my mom that like my dad used to be like my grandfather, he used to be a union guy. So kind of trying to like follow up in his footsteps. So I hope that he's looking at me from up top, and he's proud of what I'm doing. So ultimately, student unions are the first line of defense in terms of protecting students and representing students at any level. Whether it's with the college, whether it's the municipal level, the provincial level, the federal level, whether it's offering student services. CCCI is its own separate entity which directly collects money from students. So CCCI doesn't answer to anybody except you, the student. And that's, I think, the beauty of it. It's the beauty of representation and making sure that no matter what it is, CCCI has your interests at heart because, again, it is student ran. And what do we mean by student ran? This year, we've identified some areas that students could get engaged more, because at the end of the day, right now, the board is around 7-8 people. And essentially, yes, they're elected once a year, but they basically get, hey, all the decisions of CCCI, that's you folks, and then we approve or disapprove it at SGM or AGM. I find that that's not the best method, because you as a student may not, other than like reaching out to your board member, you're not able to really directly affect the change at CCCI. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to lean on committees, and this is what other students' unions do. So give you an example. Let's say we want a new policy. So a policy kind of guides the process that CCCI, like governance is very vague, okay? So governance essentially is the structural processes of the organization, and then you have the operation side, which is like the day-to-day activities. So like the governance is like the direction setting, and then the operation is like the active doing of the direction, all right? And when it comes to governance, CCCI as a student union, They are governed by the Ontario Non-for-Profits Corporations Act, which is called ONCA. Essentially, what we're seeing here is that all of these governance processes, they're pretty much in the hands of 8 people. And that, I don't think that's a good system. Policies basically dictate, for example, conflict resolution. There's a policy for that. So it's like, how do board members, if there's a conflict or like if there is a conflict in the organization, what is the chain of command? Who does it go to? And those policies are in place in order to streamline processes and understand what to do whenever things happen. And let's say there was a policy like that comes from the policy committee. It used to be only the board members, but now what we're doing is we're getting students directly involved in those committees. So we're going to get student advocates to directly provide recommendations to the board, and then in order to get those approved and get that feedback. And this is what you folks ask for, like in terms of skill development and getting more opportunities to get engaged. So that's what I'm hoping to do for this year in terms of getting students involved. And that's a very good question. We have 3 representatives that are Indigenous here on the board. Tanisha, which is from the college. We have Sol, and we have Mokwa. So these are the 3 Indigenous reps that you could trust and you can reach out to. Essentially, there's 2 main objectives that Indigenous folks wanted to bring to the table this year, which is the Indigenous Student Framework, as well as the Indigenous Student Union. So the Indigenous Student Framework will be a roadmap to ensure that CCCI's operations and its governance includes Indigenous values structurally. Like, I will say this word a lot, but structural change. And that's something that I'm very adamant about in terms of indigenization, is to have that not be a token, but an actual real thing that you will implement. And again, your bylaws, your policies, the structural processes. So that's the first objective that they may have. And then the second one is the Indigenous Student Union, because there has been a gap in terms of proper Indigenous representation where, as we know, these government structures or these like corporate structures, they are colonial in nature. So there has been a gap identified where Indigenous voices want to feel more represented with something that is more close to their heart, that follows their teachings and their culture, which is why there's a proposal for the Indigenous Student Union, which they will work on this year, to fully be able to found that and be a pillar in terms of Indigenous representation at the student union level. And in regards again to the action plan, that's not the only thing that's going to be taken care of. Can't wait to share with you folks the final action plan, because it includes trying to get a cookbook for the food bank. You can have an easy way to, look at the recipes and like cook that for yourself. A career services improvement and reform, and also like the cost reimbursement reform. There's a bunch of stuff that we're trying to get done in this year in the action plan. I think it's going to be a pretty big year for sure. And when it comes also to just again the structural changes at CCCI, like we know that SAC is closing down, unfortunately, and we're seeing the college of different faculties that are going to be taking part, right? And those are going to be changes that CCCI needs to be on the front lines of, which is what we're going to try to do this year, is do bylaw changes, but really get, again, students engaged. So consultation sessions, town halls, direct, drop-in meetings with lawyers to, explain what is happening and why is it happening, and make sure that we're compliant with provincial regulation. So essentially, again, ensuring that the next year, the next processes are student-led, your voices are heard, and again, they're all streamlined in a way that benefits you, the student. In terms of advocacy efforts as well, there's a lot of talks. It's a new federal government. It's a provincial government that is currently in the talks of having, Bill 33, which would limit the flexibility from student unions to get the fees and operate their fees as they see fit. So generally, the provincial government may be able to tell the college how they can use their ancillary fees, which is a scary thought and something that we're looking into. So if that does come to light, then there's going to be some advocacy efforts before and during. So keep an eye out for some campaigns. So I am the Director of Advocacy for the Canadian Alliance Student Association. So priorities that were set up were housing, international students, student employment, which we've heard a lot in the press in the past few years, And there's also going to be a campaign to promote the Canadian Alliance Student Association called CASA on the Road, so stay tuned for that. When it comes to advocacy efforts, we're going to try to cover all the points to make sure that you're well taken care of. And hopefully as well, these are just discussions that we've had with the board, but hopefully also start an advocacy committee. So students just like you can get involved and also like promote that campaign culture and that mobilization effort that hopefully will come forward with CCCI and you folks to really make this a really united front. Yeah, they can reach out to me directly, either like on Instagram or email, or yeah, like phone or text. You know, that works. I want to be available for students directly on the ground, because I know how it feels, again, being in Toronto and like this big city and like not really having that much help. So yeah, they can reach out at any time, and more than happy to help the way that I can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next time. Bye.